What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Service Hub. This week's episode, we have an awesome guest with us. I'm Tom Reber. Did I pronounce your last name right? I did this last week. I pronounced it.
Yeah, you did. It's good, man.
Okay.
I'll answer to anything. So,
Tom, where are you calling in from this week?
I am in beautiful Manitou Springs, Colorado, where I live. I'm sitting in my office, which we call Fight HQ, and excited to be here chatting with you guys, man.
Awesome. We got Trevor with us as well. He's out of the office. I'm out of the office. Trevor, where are you calling in from today?
Man, I'm in Linden, Utah. I am in my car in the parking lot, just running from thing to thing.
Well, I'm in Arizona. I'm down here visiting some family. I got a hunt I'm going on with my father-in-law. So, Tom, we're excited to have you on the show. For those that don't know who Tom Reber is, he's got an awesome background. He's been in the industry for several years. He built and sold a painting company, and he's built an awesome coaching company, and he's just doing some really cool stuff in the industry. And I'm going to let Tom kind of share a little bit about his story. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so I grew up, my dad was a tile guy. My uncle was a painter. My grandfather was a painter. I got out of the Marine Corps. Make a long story short, ended up running one of my uncle's crews and, did that for several years. Been in and out of the trades in that sense, just, between the Marines and some other things. And I guess it was right around 2002, 2001, 2000. Yeah. And at 2001, 2002, beginning there, I was selling nails and nail guns and stuff to carpenters out on job sites. And I'm driving around and the economy's humming along. And I'm like, I should start my own business. I was married at the time and had our first kid. And I think he was just turning 2. And so I basically sold a deck refinishing job to my boss who I worked for, who owned that fastener company. And I was in business. And I tell you, it was, we grew it to, in those first, I think my first year I did $86,000 in revenue, which was kind of funny thinking about it. And over the next 3 years, it just exploded just because of a lot of hustle and, grew to doing, in the first 3 years, a little over 300 projects a year. We were, based outside the Chicago area. And over the next several years, grew that thing, built a great team, brought on a partner. And, through the years did, millions and millions of dollars of sales. And I guess in the, one of the big differentiators in the industry is that we excelled in areas like the experience and quite honestly, our profit margin. Most guys at the time, they'd go out and they'd be making, 20, 30, 40% gross profit on a job. And we consistently ran, anywhere between 45 and 60%, just because of some of the ways that we approach things and stuff. So, and then 2012, I sold my half of the business. And I'm trying to give you the cliff notes here because everyone's got a long story, right? So,
You're fine.
And, since then I've worked with thousands of contractors in many industries, literally all over the world. And our Contractor Fight organization, I guess if you want to call it, is really rooted in bringing respect and dignity back to the trades. We help guys get paid what they're worth. We help them, and I didn't plan it, what I'm about to say. I never planned it to work this way, but as a result, one of the big results is we've seen so many people mend relationships and build stronger marriages and get in shape and all these other crazy things that we make, big sacrifices in when we're building a business. And so I'm really proud mostly of that. I mean, it's great helping people get paid what they're worth and make more money. But at the end of the day, they're really good men and women who are working in the trades every day that they're making sacrifices in, like I said, relationships and health and things like that. And they can't get those things back, and so, we really help people get their time back, make more money, and build a business that they're proud of. And that's rooted. I remember I used to go to, like a party or something, and people go, "What do you do?" And I remember for so many years having this head trash around being embarrassed that, oh, I'm a painter,
Yeah.
and because of all the connotations that come with guys that working in the trades and things like that. And a lot of that, most of that, it was my own crap in my head getting in the way.
Yeah, but I do believe that our culture is very, like, we're raised to grow up, go to school, get a job, right? Or get a degree, go to the typical university. And so
Mm-hmm.
that definitely does play a big role in that mindset, but also vice versa in the people that look at us too. So, and I feel like it's got to change, and that's kind of what you guys are doing, right? You guys are helping people, bring respect back into trades.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The average contractor, and I know there's outliers everywhere, and and it all depends. Some guys do things part-time, and some, it's their career or whatever. But um, the average home improvement contractor is, making somewhere around $55,000-$60,000 a year when all is said and done, and they're putting in crazy amounts of hours, laying awake at night. You know, they're racking up debt because they don't understand some of the fundamentals of, how to approach business and things like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really what we help people address, is that, think about all the risks somebody takes. You go in to work on somebody's plumbing or electricity, or put an addition on the house or whatever. Shoot, even in painting, I've seen, there was a contractor, one of my competitors a million years ago, who, one of his guys left some wet stain rags in the garage overnight, and the garage caught on fire and burned. They were doing a $2 million addition on this house. It was this beautiful mansion, and they burned like the new addition to the ground
Oh my
because so
gosh.
there's just a ton of risk
Yeah.
in the trades that people don't consider. And you mentioned our culture. Our culture hasn't helped it either. We got, on one side, we got teachers and half the world telling us you got to go to college or you're a moron. On the other side, you turn on HGTV and they're showing, hey, we just redid this whole room for $7.49, and it only took 45 minutes. And all these things devalue what we really do. And so we work really hard to teach guys how to think right about what they do, how to approach, how they position their business, as a leader in the industry, and get that expert status. And then all the other nitty gritty stuff. We've always said here in the fight that, success in business, here in the trades is, it's 90% what goes on between your ears, and it's 10% math.
Mm. That's super powerful. The mind is beyond powerful, and Trevor can probably speak to that quite a bit as well. He studies and is really involved in um, just therapy and psychology, and
Mm-hmm.
knows that stuff. And we talk all the time about belief and your mind and how much that alters your end result and what you're doing. So that's awesome. Um, Tom, I've got a question for you. What you spent all this time with these companies, thousands of businesses. What is the most common mistake you see people making when starting, or even, let's say, 5 years in, 10 years in to their business?
Well, I regardless of where somebody's at, if they're not where they want to be, if they're not fulfilled, if they're truly not happy as a person, and the bank account's not growing and things like that, however you're measuring your own success, that's up to you. But the first and foremost, it always comes down to what we call in the fight, you got to own your crap. And most people simply lie to themselves. They won't get real about why they're in the position that they're in. And so the first, we have a private Facebook group that's free, called the Contractor Fight. And uh, as of this recording, I think we have right around 2,300 members in it. We've actually kicked out over 3,000 members.
Wow.
And because we have a policy that if you want to be part of this group, the cover charge is you have to own your crap within 24 hours. And so, people request access. and they're supposed to do a post. It could be a video, it could be a written post, whatever. And basically, you got to come clean with, what is the crap going on between your ears that's hurting you, hurting your business, hurting your family. And, and it's character stuff that we're looking for. If a guy comes in and goes, oh, my business sucks because of all the illegals and I don't know how to, compete with them. That's not owning your crap. Owning your crap is, hey, I'm a procrastinator. I know there's all these things that I'm supposed to do. And quite honestly, I just don't do them. And if you don't do that within 24 hours, we axe you from the group. And what that's done is it's really given people a common ground of entry point when they come into our world to, hey, we're all in this together. We all have a lot of the same crap going on between our ears. And this is why we're underachieving is at the root of it. We're not truly honest with ourselves. And we have guys that come in and they're like, I'm just a rageful person. My anger carries through in every area of my life, every area of my business, and it's getting in the way of me being successful. That's what we're looking for. And once you can look in the mirror and be honest like that, that's when progress can really happen.
Wow.
No way. No, that's pretty amazing. And so it sounds like people are pretty vulnerable in sharing what's going on with them.
Absolutely. Being a business owner, you feel like you're on an island a lot. You feel like I'm the only one going through this or whatever. And like I said, what I'm super proud of is we have people that, have enough self-awareness to just go, hey, here I am. This is where things are at in my business. This is how I think I'm hurting it. And I look forward to being here and learning. And it's a really great community where people are just encouraging each other. Like you're not going to see, a lot of the contractor Facebook groups and stuff that are out there, they'll take a picture of how a door was installed and there'll be 7,000 comments about how I would have done it better. That's bullshit. We don't need to play that game. This is about getting better as a business person. Think of all the time that we've put into learning our trade, our craft. Yet we really put in barely a fraction of that same time into developing ourselves and our business chops. And so we don't want to play any games. It was funny. We had a guy when I first started the Facebook group and the owning your crap thing. I think it was middle of 2017. We had a guy who didn't own his crap, and my assistant cut him from the group, and he sent me a private message the next day. He's like, "Oh my God, you really did it." And I said, "Yeah, we really did it." And that guy, came back into the group, owned his crap, and then, he ended up again, kind of an unintentional side effect was the big differentiator that he wanted to work with us as his coach than other companies he was talking to, because he really wanted somebody that was going to call him on his BS.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me that you guys start from that platform, because I think most of the time everyone's like, oh, like we're part of a bunch of Facebook groups, Parker and I, and it is a lot of that posting, like, hey, like we're the window washing group, and like here's like streaks on a window, or like all these other things, but rarely do you get down to the core of performance. And it reminds me of the Alcoholics Anonymous. Actually, they, as part of their traditions forever, have started with stating their character weaknesses, as they call it, or their character flaws, because from that point, growth is, you can start. I think like their first step has to do with like honesty. And it's so interesting to see how, you think like, oh, I'm going to be successful in my contracting business. And yet you never really think about, okay, I'm going to take a principle that's founded in like psychology and Alcoholics Anonymous and support groups to help me grow. But it makes a whole lot of sense. A real good self-diagnosis starts there. So you guys see a lot of stuff outside of just their business and their contracting world. So it has to do with like their personal life, it even sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, I have a fundamental belief that your business will only be as strong as you are. And so, instead of just going right to the business and looking at the math and the spreadsheets and the marketing plans and all that other stuff, we look to work on the person first. And if the person is not 100% committed to looking in the mirror and, and owning their crap, then that is a disqualifier right out of the gate, even for our free stuff. So it's like,
Wow.
and listen, we all have different levels of owning our crap. We have, you have different awareness levels, but you got to give us something that's rooted in your character. It doesn't have to be deep and juicy and, and headline worthy or anything like that, but just, like, for example, for me, my big turning point came, I was, like I shared before you hit record, I've been on every side of this. I've had a successful painting business, did millions in sales. We had a great reputation and all this other stuff. And on the back end of it, I was broke because I didn't understand some of the basics of business. But the real issue was what I really believed about myself. And I ended up going, I was invited to go to this nonprofit event for college fraternity guys in Cabo a number of years ago. One of my buddies owns a multi-million-dollar contracting business, and he's on the board of this organization. He's like, hey, why don't you come down and be one of our speakers for the week and all this other stuff. And 2 or 3 years he asked me, and 2 or 3 years I made up an excuse of why I didn't want to go or why I couldn't go. And so I didn't go. And the reason I didn't go is, at the root, I truly believed this was my baggage. This was my crap. And I have more crap now, but this is my initial crap, was I didn't believe I was smart. I didn't believe I was, anything intellectual I would shy away from. And here's why. When I was in grade school, I rode the short bus for 2 years, and so I proudly wear the "I'm a short bus kid" T-shirt, right? And so, what that did, and there were a lot of other things going on, but what that did is it kind of sent a message to me that I wasn't smart. I just carried that around with me for decades. I would avoid intellectual situations. I would avoid having a conversation with people that were close to me and really sharing my feelings, because I didn't trust that I was smart enough to have the intuition to trust what was going on in my head, if that makes sense. Like it showed in all these different areas of my life. And so I ended up going to this event finally, because I'm like, man, I'm never going to get over this baggage that I'm stupid. I just always thought I was stupid. I was a terrible student. And I'm like, I got to run into the punch here, or else I got to deal with this, or I'm never going to grow. If I don't put myself in a situation to grow, I'm not going to grow. So I go to the event, and I walked in, and 5 minutes into it, I see all of our bios up on the wall, hanging on the wall. And there's, one of the founders of frickin' Ticketmaster and 44 other companies. There's this billionaire in the oil industry. There's this guy who owns this crazily massive, huge lumber company that does, business all over the world. And then you get to my bio. There were like 10 bios, and you get to mine. It's like, he owns a painting company. It was just like a 2-line little thing. And it was right out of the gate. I'm like, there you are again. You're not impressive. You're not smart. You don't have all the degrees or whatever it is. And I'm like, that's all right. You just got to own this. You got to own it. You are who you are. And I went up. I was part of this panel discussion to start the day. And here's why I said no to the event for a couple of years in a row. My baggage is I thought I was stupid. It was a college fraternity event. So in my mind, I'm making up this story. Everybody's in there, and there's a brainiac. They're all way smarter than me. Last thing I want to do is go speak to that group. Okay. As crazy as that sounds, as much of a wuss as it makes me sound, that was what was really going on in my head. And even though I had a really successful business, I'd been, really successful in the Marine Corps and a bunch of other things that I'd done in my life, I still had this baggage that I was not smart. And so I do this panel discussion, and first thing out of my mouth is I'm like, hey, I'm Tom. I didn't go to college. And and hopefully I can give you guys something of value here. And I just shared a little bit of my story and what was going on. And afterwards, they sent us off to these rooms where, the attendees, the 100 or so people that were there, could go and pick the brain of each panelist. And over a third of the room came to talk to me.
Wow.
and it really blew me away. And that kind of opened the door. Well, by the end of the week, the people that put this thing on invited me to be part of their board meeting. And there were about 10, 12 guys at this big round table. And I'm sitting in there, totally intimidated. And then there's a lot that happened, but we don't have time for. So we get to the end of the meeting here, and I'm like, all right, cool. I'm almost out of here. And then this one guy goes, well, they were talking about marketing. How do they market their event going forward in the future to get more college guys to it? Because they wanted to have an impact. It was a leadership training thing. And this guy goes, well, Tom, this is your first time here. What do you think about what we're doing? And all the eyes went on me. It was like, it was like a movie where I felt like I was sitting at the little card table with the light over it, and I'm being interrogated with a guy with a big cigar in his mouth, and, things like that.
Yeah.
And in 45 seconds, I just literally said, hey, if this is my organization, I'm doing this. You guys need to think about this, blah, 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 whatever I said. The guy, this billionaire guy who runs the thing, looks at his intern or assistant guy or whatever it was. He goes, do we have the capability to do everything that he just said? And the kid goes, yeah, we can do that. No problem. He goes, all right, let's do that. Meeting adjourned. They all got up and they walked away. All right. I'm sitting there alone at this table, at this beautiful house of this guy, in Cabo, overlooking the Sea of Cortez. The sun was going down. It was hilarious when I think back on it. And I remember standing up. I walked outside. I'm overlooking the ocean. There's a Corona in the cooler. I popped the Corona, and I looked out. Tears welled up in my eyes, and out loud I said to myself, I'm not stupid. Because that for me that was being uncomfortable. I put myself in a place where I didn't truly believe I could run with the big dogs. And yet I opened my mouth for less than a minute, and it wasn't a disaster. And that was validation enough to me that I'm not an idiot, and I have what it takes to succeed. And since that day, you guys, my income, if we're just talking money, has gone up tenfold easily. My confidence is through the roof because that was the first domino. And, my relationships have leveled up. I mean, every area of my life has gotten better because I chose to run into the punch and deal with the shit that was between my ears that was dragging me down for so long.
Wow.
Dang, that is so powerful.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say.
Well, and it what's unique about your story is I feel like a lot of people get stuck in what we call like a faulty core belief. Your faulty core belief is I'm dumb, I'm not smart, whatever it is. And then oftentimes they look for evidence that manifests the truth of that faulty core belief, and they'll take things that is like false evidence that says like, oh man, I'm not smart. Maybe even part of that false evidence is like, hey, I didn't go to college. And you had a different experience where you recognized the evidence that contradicted the faulty core belief. And I feel like that's very awesome and very fortunate. Within your guys' circle, do you guys speak to, I guess, how to challenge some of those beliefs that people have, and quit looking for the evidence that supports a faulty belief, but how to challenge those beliefs? Have you heard any other stories, or how do the people who are listening say, man, yeah, I think I have a belief that my business can only make $150,000 a year. For some reason, that's my cap, and I don't know how to get past that. Like, what can they implement to change their mindset?
Yeah, and that's a great question. We have hundreds of examples, and I'll give you the 30,000-foot view. So, like I said before, it all starts with owning your crap. Like, if you're not honest about where you're at right now, then you're gonna have a really hard time moving forward. Okay, so that we've beat that up a lot. One of the things to understand is that we have somewhere between 70 and 90,000 thoughts a day that run through our brain. Most of them, and they're unconscious thoughts, right? They're there. All the brain doctors, the brainiacs out there they figured out that about 90% of those thoughts are negative, or they're the same thoughts you had the day before. There's very little variation in the stuff that we think every day, and most of it is negative. And it could be anything from you're sitting in traffic and you see a guy in a, you talked about Tesla, right? I mean, there's a new Tesla sitting there, and this guy's driving a beater van, and he might have a little thought that rolls across his brain. You guys know how it is. We all have them. And so, first and foremost, it's recognizing that you have control over your thoughts. But the problem is most of us are on autopilot with our thinking. And so one of the things we encourage people to do is take control of the thoughts that you have every day. And you could do that a number of different ways. We have this planner that we have in the fight and stuff that basically starts with some gratitude. Then it starts with some I am statements, some affirmations. And one of the things I've said to myself and I write down every morning, among other things, is I'm a magnet for money and success. Okay. Nobody in my family ever really made more than 40 grand a year. Debt and bankruptcy and gambling problems and alcoholism, all these things were crazy in my family growing up. And that's all I had. And so my whole life, that's what's being downloaded into my thinking. And so I never knew there was a world where you could make, $250,000 in your own pocket. That world never existed to me. And so I always tell people, start simply by being intentional, just if it's a couple minutes a morning, putting stuff into your brain, writing it down. There's a connection there between, actually writing it down and it stick it in your brain, and carry it with you and pull it out a few times a day and read those affirmations. So first and foremost, be intentional about what you put in your brain. The second is you have to increase your confidence. Confidence is a powerful thing, and our confidence improves a number of ways, but the four main ways that we look at is right away, take pride in yourself, right? Take care of your body, get sleep, exercise. Climbing up and down a ladder all day does not count as exercise, guys. Okay. Like that's your job. Okay. I'm talking, go for a 20-minute run. Do 100 push-ups, if you could do 2 push-ups, do 2 push-ups, whatever it is. A lot of great things happen in your confidence and your demeanor and the energy that you put off when you take pride in yourself. Second is and this is what happened to me in Cabo. A lot of these things happened to me in that day in Cabo, but one of them is I work really hard to not be the smartest guy in the room. I want to make sure that I'm really picky about my tribe and who I hang with and who's in my inner circle. And when I got intentional about that, you talk about hitting the hyperspeed button, man, or the hyperspace button. That fast tracks so many things. So for instance, a lot of contractors undersell their services because at the root, we sell in the same manner in which we buy. So if I think $500 is a lot of money for something, I'm going to have a hard time telling somebody $500 for something. Okay. But when you hang around the right tribe, and I'll never forget this, I'm sitting around with these guys that I met in Cabo the next time I went down there, because I went down the next year. And the conversation was like, we're at the table, we're just hanging out, having breakfast with them. One guy's like, yeah, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing, whatever it is. It's only 140 grand. Okay. Just that little thing, where in my mind, now, mind you, a couple of years earlier, a few years earlier, I had a bankruptcy. I supported a family of 5 on $26,000 in my worst year.
Dang.
Okay. And I'm sitting at a table with a guy going, it's only 140 grand. But you know what it did is it downloaded something else into my subconscious. And when you start hanging around the right people, good or bad, it rubs off. Chances are right now, if there's a contractor listening to this and he's broke, if he looks around to the 5 closest relationships that he has right now, I guarantee you that they make within 5 to 10% money of each other. Wow. And I guarantee you that the conversations that they have are more victim-minded than positivity and things like that. So your tribe is super important to increasing your confidence, taking pride in yourself, taking care of your machine and your mind. Third thing is keep promises to yourself. So Parker, if you said to me, you're in Arizona, if you happen to be in Colorado right now and you said, hey, I'm flying in, and dude, I ran into an issue. Is there any way that you can pick me up at 4 a.m. and get me to the airport tomorrow? In a heartbeat, I would say yes. Okay. Now let me ask you this, Parker. Do you think I'd show up at 4 a.m. ready to go?
I don't know. I hope so.
Would you? If you made the commitment to me, would you be there at 4 a.m. to pick me up and take me to the airport?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because I made that commitment.
Yeah, and you don't want to let me down, right?
Yeah, I don't want to let you
You
down.
want to be a man of your word and all that other stuff.
Totally.
Here's the problem. When we make commitments to ourselves, we blow ourselves off. Okay? So, yeah, I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to run. I'm going to make 5 follow-up calls tomorrow. I'm going to work on that marketing thing tomorrow between 3 and 4 o'clock. And then the moment of truth comes and we let ourselves off the hook, we don't keep the promise we made to ourselves. And that erodes our confidence over time. Every time you don't fulfill a promise to yourself, it's like taking a brick out of that confidence wall. But every time you fulfill or keep a promise that you make to yourself, you're adding another brick. And so start with little promises to yourself. You know what? If you're chicken to talk about money with a client, in person to their face, because a lot of contractors are. We haven't been trained. We don't know. We have shoot. We've been talking about the whole mindset crap we have between our ears, but we haven't even talked about all the money mindset and baggage that all of us have from our backgrounds. And so one of the areas I see this hurt contractors a lot is they're afraid to talk about money for a million different reasons. But so I tell a guy, you know what? Instead of telling them, hey, I'm going to work this up and email it to you and be a chicken about it, said just one time this week, promise yourself one time you're going to talk about it face to face with the client. Okay. It doesn't have to be 10 times. Or if prospecting, you got a prospect. Everyone's like, yeah, I make 100 cold calls a day. You know what? Start with one and fulfill that promise. And every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence goes up. And then that leads into the fourth thing, which I think is equally important to these others, is we encourage people to overdose on discomfort. Like, take the whole bottle of pills of discomfort, man. You know, look for opportunities to be uncomfortable. Back to the money thing. If you're uncomfortable talking about money with a client, then get uncomfortable, because every time you get uncomfortable, you raise that bar. And, and that, it could be, one of our programs is a sales training program, and we have a belt system like martial arts. We have a green belt and all that other stuff. And you got to do a certain number of role plays with other group members. And that's to teach you to get uncomfortable, to start talking about things with people on a pre-qualifying phone call and addressing the elephant in the room. And every time you fulfill that commitment to get a little more uncomfortable every day, and you overdose on it, things become easy. And the things that are hard for you now, you're going to look back 6 months or a year from now, you're going to be like, man, I can't believe I was such a wuss. And so just like muscles in the gym, a muscle only gets stronger, it only grows when there's discomfort added into the equation. If you're just going along in your comfort zone all the time, you're never going to have the gains that you want to have. And it's the same with what's going on in our mind.
Yeah. Dude, Trevor, I can't help but think of what Tom, Trevor and I have a mutual mentor, and he always says, I'd rather be uncomfortable now so I can be comfortable later.
Mm-hmm.
And too often people live comfortable lives now, and later in their life, they're very uncomfortable. And it's so powerful. Like, that's all of this. I hope those that are driving, those that are doing things right now, go back and listen to this episode and take notes on these things. I've got my notepad out and I'm just taking notes like crazy. Like, this is money.
Well, it's pretty amazing that you make the analogy to a muscle, because when it comes down to, so we're talking about a couple of different things and they tie together. One is these beliefs, these core beliefs and these limiting beliefs, and one is an action that is kind of like in like the therapeutic world, it's called opposite action is what they call it, where you act contrary to whatever the sub brain or what we call the base brain is telling you is true. And that message is encoded from years and years ago. Most of them are encoded in our minds before we're of the age of 8 years old. And so a lot of those are really hard to unwire, and they're literally physically, just like the muscle, they're wired through neural pathways. And so we have the challenge to rewire those. And it's really awesome that you're talking about, affirmations, you're talking about opposite action, because those are the things that quite literally change the physiology of your brain and how it operates. And so one day, it may continue to be uncomfortable to do something that challenges a belief of yours, like, oh, I can't talk to a customer about money. It may be uncomfortable, but the longer that you do it, one of the great reasons why it becomes comfortable is that your brain literally adapts physically to make it so that it's no longer uncomfortable. And one day you'll kind of go, oh my gosh, I just talked to that guy about money and I didn't even think about it. Like that was just second nature. That just happened. What?
Mm-hmm.
And that's because you've done the rewiring and you're no longer fighting your own physiology.
Well, it's like, you talk about, oh my God, I just said that it was like on autopilot, just came out or whatever.
Yeah.
That's because people reach a level of what they, in the 4 stages of learning, it's called unconscious competence, where it's basically second nature. So you ever been to a concert and you see the guitarist shredding a guitar solo, and at the same time he's leaning down having a conversation with the sound guy, or the roadie, like he's having, or he's talking to the singer and he's saying something in his ears while he's shredding a guitar solo. Okay? That is a guy who started 4 stages. Our number 1 is unconscious incompetence, where you suck and you don't even know it. Okay. Then you move to conscious incompetence. Now I'm aware that I'm no good at this thing. Okay. And now you have a decision to make. Do I want to get better? Then you move with practice and repetition, you move into conscious competence. And then with further development, you move to unconscious competence. And so that's why we put so much, what you're talking about, the rewiring and stuff, we put so much emphasis on just starting with being intentional about what your thoughts are. Okay. Your thoughts lead to beliefs. Beliefs lead to action, and action gets you results that you want. Either way. So if you're thinking all the time, I'm too expensive. I'm too expensive. Nobody wants to pay my price. That's going to internalize as a belief. Now here's the crazy thing, guys. We will never act out of sync with what we truly believe. So you might know that you need to raise your prices and have a tough conversation with a customer or an employee or whatever it might be. But if you don't truly believe it, you will not act on it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you will get the crappy results that you're getting. On the contrary, if you're intentionally telling yourself, like I do every day in the money area, I'm a magnet for money and success. I add massive value to the people around me, blah, blah, blah. After a while, that repetition becomes a belief. And then I act on that belief when game time comes. And then I get the results that I want. So, and again, it all starts with just being intentional about what we allow into our head. The people, we allow things in our head by what we tell ourselves, who we hang out with, what we watch, what we listen to. One of my buddies who's also a client of ours, when he was learning this stuff, he says, he disabled satellite radio on his truck. He's like, cause I don't, and all he does is listen to podcasts now when he drives. Because he wants to be so intentional about what goes into his head. He doesn't want any crap in there. He's like, I got 40 years of crap in my head. I don't need any more.
Yeah. I love that. It reminds me of a saying I kind of always told myself, and I learned from that same mentor: what flows through you sticks to you. And and that's, we're not talking physically, we're talking mentally here, right? Like what flows through your mind sticks to your mind. What junk are you putting in your head? Is it good junk or is it crappy junk? Right?
Yeah.
Because it goes from thoughts, and then it goes to words, and then it goes to your deeds, what you're doing. So, man, Tom, this is incredible. I love what we're talking about. I wish we had more time. We're coming up on our time here. Tom, leave us with one more thing, and then tell us a little bit about how people can find out more about what you're doing and learn about you and go from there.
Cool. I appreciate that. Yeah. One more thing, what easily comes to mind is that, guys, everything's a choice. All right. You are where you are right now in your life because of the choices that you've made. It's that simple. We're talking about the trades and business and stuff. It's not the Brazilians in your work area that'll work for cheap. It's not, the unlicensed guys. It's not the fact that nobody wants to pay my price or whatever. the bottom line is if you're not where you want to be, it is 100% your choice. Success is in your hands. Otherwise, you're a victim.
Yeah.
So if you don't totally claim that this is your choice, if you don't own that, then you are in a victim role. And personally, I refuse to be a victim. There's so many things you can't control, but you can control your attitude and you can control your actions. And the cool thing is these are the two things that typically produce all your results, is your attitude and your actions. I know a lot of this stuff can sound hocus pocus to people, and anyone that knows me and spent time with me, guys, I'm as blue collar, non woo woo as they come. Okay. Believe me. And, I got a guy who, in 2015, he earned about $70,000 in his landscape business. He's down in Nashville. And we started working on this mindset stuff and some other things, strategically and tactically within the business. But we were really focused on the mindset. By the end of 2018, so basically 2 years, because we started working together literally like December of 2015. By the end of 2018, he had grown his business, and he had three employees in the field. He does all the sales. He's got 3 guys in the field, small business. He was doing about $350,000 a year in sales. He grew top line revenue from, right around 350 to a little over 1.2 million. But more importantly is he grew his $70,000 personal income to just under $400,000.
Wow.
In less than, right about 2 years, call it 2 years and a month or whatever. Here's the cool thing. He didn't hire any more employees. He really didn't change a whole lot. Okay. Because he chose success. He refused to accept the scraps that most contractors work for. And he controlled his thinking, and certainly he got uncomfortable in some other ways and things like that. But the main issue here is everything's a choice. He chose to be successful, and he chose to not play by the same rules that all the other contractors are doing. Because you know how it is. Guys will say things you see in these other Facebook groups. Hey, what's the going rate for this? Oh, I can't get that in my area, and blah, blah, blah. Guys, that's part of playing the game that everyone else is playing. And look at the results that we have with that.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage people to choose to not be a victim, control your action or your attitude, your thoughts. And with that, they become beliefs, and then in turn, they become the actions that you take. So I guess that's my final thought for the day.
Awesome.
No, we love that. Thank you so much. And again, for our listeners, where they go to find more information about what you do?
Yeah, just go to the contractorfight.com or go on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, type that in anywhere in Google, and all of our stuff will come up. And I encourage guys to jump in. We got thousands of pieces of free content. We got, over a couple thousand guys in the group that have owned their crap and they're mentally in the right place. And it's a great community there on Facebook for people to be able to connect with others. And, if you're willing to open up a little bit, there are plenty of people there that will give you a bunch of their time and wisdom and things like that to help you get through whatever it is you're going through.
Perfect. And before you visit, you got to have your crap. You got to own it. You got to be ready to do that. And so we're super grateful that you were on our show today, Tom. I'm going to go out today and start owning some crap, definitely getting inspired that way. And for everybody who's listening, if you have comments or anything, please send them over to parker@curry.io or trevor@curry.io. We love hearing from you guys, as well as please always remember to give us a review. Like always, our favorite flavor is 5 stars. But Tom, we appreciate you having you on the Service Hub today.
Hey guys, I appreciate you having me, and keep doing what you're doing, man. It's good stuff.